Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Quantum Thread podcast. I'm Susan, and with me today are Paul and Liam. Guys, have you ever stopped to think about where your data actually lives? Like when you upload a photo, send an email, or even just browse a website, where does all that information physically go?
That's a fantastic starting point, Susan, because it's something most people just don't consider. They assume it's in the cloud, which, let's be honest, sounds a bit magical and not very geographical, right? But the reality is, it's stored on physical servers in physical locations.
Exactly. And that physical location or lack of clarity around it leads us straight into our topic today. The crucial difference between data sovereignty and data residency, and how new technologies like micro data centers are shaking things up. It's not just a technicality, it has massive implications for businesses, governments, and even us as individuals.
Absolutely. It sounds a bit like legal jargon, but it impacts everything from privacy to national security. So, Paul, let's start with data residency. What exactly does that mean?
Sure, data residency is the simpler of the two concepts. It literally refers to the physical location where your data is stored. Think of it like your home address for your digital information. If you're a company operating in Germany and you want your customer data to stay within Germany, then you're talking about data residency. You're specifying that the servers holding that data must be physically located within German borders.
And it sounds straightforward, right? Just keep the data in the right country. But that's where the complexity starts, especially when you consider global operations and cloud services that might have servers scattered across continents. You might think your data is local, but it could be replicated, backed up, or even processed in another jurisdiction entirely, without you even knowing.
Okay, so data residency is about the physical location. Now, Liam, let's tackle data sovereignty. How does that differ, and why is it so much more nuanced?
Data sovereignty takes it a step further. It's about the legal jurisdiction over data. It posits that data is subject to the laws and governance structures of the nation in which it is collected, processed, and stored, regardless of who owns the data or where the data physically resides. So, even if your data is physically located in Germany, addressing residency, if it's owned by, say, a U.S. company, and U.S. laws like the Cloud Act come into play, those laws could potentially supersede German law. It's about who has the ultimate legal say or control.
It's a huge distinction. You can have data residency without true data sovereignty. Imagine a data center in Canada, but it's owned and operated by a company headquartered in the US. While the data physically resides in Canada, its ultimate legal fate could still be subject to US laws. This is where companies and governments really start to scratch their heads, especially with sensitive information.
So residency is a means to achieve sovereignty, but not sovereignty itself. Sovereignty is the broader legal control. Why is this distinction becoming so critical now, more than ever?
Honestly, it's driven by several factors. First, global data privacy regulations are tightening significantly. Think GDPR in Europe, CCPA in California, and similar laws emerging worldwide. These laws often mandate where certain types of data can be stored and processed, and under what legal framework. Companies face massive fines if they get this wrong.
Beyond regulations, there's also the element of national security and economic sovereignty. Governments want control over their citizens' data, critical infrastructure data, and proprietary business information. They don't want foreign governments or entities to have easy access or influence over data that's crucial to their nation's interests. It's about trust and independence in the digital realm.
That makes perfect sense. It's like a digital border control, but with layers of complexity. Now, historically, how have traditional data centers handled these requirements? Because most businesses use cloud services, which often means traditional, massive data centers.
Traditional data centers, while incredibly powerful and scalable, often present significant challenges here. They're typically large, centralized facilities, often housing data from many different organizations across various industries and, crucially, different geographical regions. While cloud providers do offer regions where you can specify data residency, the underlying infrastructure is still shared. This multi-tenancy model can make it tricky to guarantee granular sovereignty. For example, if you're sharing hardware or even logical partitions with a company whose data is subject to a different country's laws, things get murky.
And it's not just about sharing hardware. The operational teams, the management software, even the network routes can cross borders. Trying to ensure true data sovereignty in such a sprawling, interconnected environment can be an administrative and legal nightmare. You might fulfill the residency requirement by storing data in a specific country's region, but then the legal team has to grapple with whether the parent company's home country laws could still claim jurisdiction over that data.
So it sounds like traditional data centers, while efficient for many things, aren't always the perfect fit for these stringent, country-specific data demands. This is where EcoSync Micro Data Centers come into play, right? What's the fundamental difference they offer?
Exactly. EcoSync Micro Data Centers are designed to address these issues precisely. Unlike massive, centralized facilities, micro data centers are smaller, self-contained units that can be deployed much closer to the source of data generation, literally at the edge. Think of them as bringing the data center to you rather than you sending your data to a distant cloud.
This closer to the source concept is revolutionary for data sovereignty and residency. By having these secure on-premise solutions, businesses gain direct control over where their data physically resides. They can ensure it never leaves their country or even their specific facility if that's what regulations demand.
So it's not just about a smaller footprint, but about direct, localized control. How does that translate into tangible benefits for companies trying to navigate these data laws?
The benefits are enormous. First, there's enhanced data residency. You know precisely where your data is. If you're a hospital in, say, rural Australia, and you need patient data to stay within that specific region for regulatory compliance, a micro data center allows that. It's not going off to a mega center in Sydney or beyond. This directly supports achieving data sovereignty because you have a much clearer and simpler chain of custody.
Then there's compliance. Many industries, finance, healthcare, government, defense, have incredibly strict regulations about data location and access. Micro data centers make it significantly easier to meet these local regulations because the infrastructure is dedicated or highly isolated. You're not worrying about multi-tenant environments or the complexities of international data transfer agreements.
And let's not forget the performance aspect. By bringing data storage and processing closer to the user or device, you drastically reduce latency. This is huge for edge computing applications, like autonomous vehicles, IoT devices, or real-time analytics. Faster processing, improved security because the data isn't traversing long, potentially insecure networks, and greater resilience.
That's fascinating. So it's not just about legal compliance, it's also about operational efficiency and security. Are there specific industries or scenarios where EcoSync Micro Data Centers really shine because of these capabilities?
Absolutely. Think about industries operating in remote locations: mining, oil and gas, remote manufacturing. They generate massive amounts of data at the edge, but traditionally had to send it all back to a central data center for processing. This was slow, expensive, and often unreliable due to connectivity issues. A micro data center can process that data right there, on site, keeping it compliant and reducing bandwidth costs.
Another crucial area is critical national infrastructure. Power grids, water treatment plants, telecommunications. You simply cannot afford for the data governing these systems to be vulnerable or subject to foreign legal reach. Having dedicated, secure, on-premise micro data centers provides an unparalleled level of control and assurance. They're also built for rapid deployment, which is a big plus. You can drop them into place relatively quickly and get them operational.
I can see how that would be vital. And what about the environmental aspect? Are these smaller units more sustainable than the traditional giants?
They definitely can be. EcoSync Micro Data Centers often prioritize energy efficiency in their design. Because they're smaller, often modular, and located closer to the point of use, they can reduce the energy required for cooling and power distribution compared to vast, climate-controlled halls in traditional data centers. It's not just about the footprint, it's about optimizing resource use.
And the fact that they're on-premise often means easier integration with existing sustainable energy sources a company might already be using or is planning to deploy. It adds another layer of control and alignment with corporate sustainability goals, which is a massive concern for businesses today.
So to recap, EcoSync Micro Data Centers offer enhanced data residency and sovereignty by bringing processing power closer to the data source. They help with compliance, reduce latency for edge computing, improve security, and can even be more energy efficient. It sounds like a pretty compelling solution for the modern data landscape.
They absolutely are. And it's not just about the technology itself, but the philosophy behind it. It's a shift from data goes to the cloud comes to your data. This paradigm offers a much finer degree of control, which is indispensable in an era of complex data regulations and increasing cyber threats. You're not just storing data, you're owning its physical and legal destiny.
And it fosters greater trust. When a company can transparently state and demonstrate that its customers' data is stored and governed entirely within its jurisdiction, it builds confidence. In a world where data breaches and privacy concerns are constantly in the headlines, that trust is invaluable. Micro data centers empower organizations to take back control, literally.
That's a fantastic point to end on, Liam. Control and trust are really at the heart of this discussion. It's clear that understanding the difference between data sovereignty and residency isn't just for legal or IT departments anymore. It's a fundamental business and strategic imperative. And solutions like EcoSync Micro Data Centers are providing tangible ways to navigate these complexities.
Paul, Liam, thank you so much for shedding light on such an important and often misunderstood topic. It's been incredibly insightful.
My pleasure, Susan. Always great to talk about these cutting-edge solutions.
Thanks for having me. It's definitely a conversation that needs to happen more often. If you're curious to learn more about this topic, I encourage you to check out the description for more information. It's well worth a read.
And to our listeners, thank you for joining us on the Quantum Thread. We hope this episode helps you better understand your data's digital borders. Until next time, stay curious and stay informed.